A little girl in a wheelchair saluted a royal guard, and he did something no one expected. "Mommy, did he see me?" I saluted him. Her voice was gentle, fragile, like the early autumn wind slipping through the palace courtyard. I didn't turn. I couldn't. Turning would break protocol, and a royal guard does not move. Not for tourists, not for kings, and not even— "Hi everyone, welcome to Echo Tales." Even for a dying little girl offering the purest gesture of honor she knows. But I heard her. It was in her tone. So honest, so quietly crushed, so unaware that her simple words cut straight through every layer of discipline I had ever learned to wear like armor. I stood still, rigid as the bare skin on my head, Enfield rifle at my side. Another day posted at the gates of Buckingham Palace. Tourists came and went, laughing, posing for selfies, pulling stunts in hopes of cracking the guards. None ever did. That was the point. But she wasn't trying to provoke anything. She was trying to connect. From the corner of my eye, I saw her approach, a tiny figure in a purple wheelchair, pushed slowly by a woman whose face bore the weariness of endless days. The child was delicate, her arms like twigs, cheeks hollowed, yet her eyes carried light. As they reached the barrier, she raised her hand, a full, unwavering salute. No teasing, no games, just a child who somehow understood what it meant to show respect. And I did nothing. I stared ahead, unmoving. Training, overwhelmed instinct. The code is clear. Silence and stillness, no matter who or what stands before you. The girl held her salute for a moment, then let it fall. And then came the question. The question that's never left me. "Mummy, did he see me?" I saluted him. Her mother crouched beside her, hands trembling on the wheelchair's handles. "He saw you, love," she whispered. "He sees everything." The crowd drifted on. The girl didn't look back, but I did, with my eyes, not my head. I watched until the mist swallowed them. I don't remember the rest of that shift. Not the tourists faking faints, not the Americans shouting for me to smile, not the teenager dancing for TikTok. None of them mattered, only her. When my relief came at exactly 6 p.m., I saluted, marched away with my unit, and headed straight for the security office. Guards don't go near the tech. We don't meddle with CCV. But that day, I broke the rules. "Charlie," I said to the sergeant on duty, "I need the footage. East Courtyard Gate, around 1540. He raised an eyebrow. "You never ask for footage." "I know," I said, "but today's different." He didn't question me. We sat in the cold grey room, surrounded by the hum of machines and flickering red lights. He pulled the feed. The screen blinked, then settled. There she was, wheeling slowly to the cordon. She raised her little arm, shaking with the effort. Her lips moved. "I salute you, sir." Her mother's hand rested on her shoulder. They waited. Her hand stayed high, 20, maybe 30 seconds, then fell. She said it again. "Mommy, did he see me?" The camera caught every detail. Her voice, though faint, filled the room. Charlie leaned back in his chair. "Blimey," he muttered. She wasn't messing about. "No," I said. She wasn't. Even after the footage ended, I sat staring at the screen. My hands were fists, not in anger, but in shame, because I had heard her, and I did nothing. I could have nodded, winked, tilted my head, anything. But I didn't, because guards don't break protocol. But that day, I broke something else. A promise I never made, a moment I'll never get back. "She's ill," I said, voice raw. "Very." "You can tell?" Charlie asked. "Yeah," I whispered. "You learn to see it. The way they carry themselves. Older than they are. Quiet, respectful. They're not here for fun. They're saying goodbye." He paused. You want me to help find her? I hesitated. The truth was yes, but I shook my head. Not yet. He didn't push. Neither did I. That night, I couldn't sleep. The barracks was silent, but for the shifting of uniforms and the soft clink of boots. But her voice, hers, echoed louder than any bugle I've heard. I lay awake, replaying the moment again and again, rewriting it in my head. In my version, I saluted back. I turned, met her eyes, told her, without words, I see you. I honor you. But reality doesn't allow rewrites. What really happened was this. A little girl saluted a royal guard, and he stood there, still as a statue, hiding behind tradition, like a coward. The next morning, I went to the duty roster and requested the East Gate, every shift, for the next 2 weeks. When asked why, I simply said, there's someone I hope comes back, because I wasn't going to miss my chance again. If she returned, even just once, I'd make sure she knew, yes, I saw you, and I always will. Never forget, her name was Ellie, 9 years old, soft curls like spring leaves, and a voice no louder than a whisper. I found out through an unlikely source, a part-time palace guide who had overheard her mother speaking with another visitor days later. Word travels in places like ours, not through gossip, but through quiet reverence for the stories that matter. Ellie had leukemia, terminal. Her mother, Clara, brought her to London for what doctors said might be her final good week. Not Disneyland, not beaches, not celebrities, Buckingham Palace. Because Ellie didn't dream of being a princess. She wanted to be a royal guard. If I get better, she had told her mum, I'll be the first girl to stand like him. I won't blink, not even once. Her mother had laughed through tears and promised to buy her a toy sword if she could stay silent for an hour. Ellie made it 47 minutes before bursting into giggles at a pigeon. Still, she passed her own test. She meant it. I later learned she'd studied YouTube videos of the changing of the guard, memorized the marching patterns, watched old interviews, absorbed the rituals. She didn't see us as attractions. She saw us as heroes, real ones. That Wednesday, I was back on duty when she returned, near dusk. The crowds had thinned, and the scent of coming rain lingered in the air. I was posted at the outer line, near the public walk, and there she was again. Her wheelchair now flew a tiny Union Jack flag, fluttering in the wind. Her face looked paler. Her lips had turned faintly blue, but she smiled as though she couldn't feel death trailing quietly behind her. Our eyes met. She didn't salute this time. Instead, she gestured toward her lap. Her mum reached into a canvas bag and pulled out a small black box. Ellie wheeled forward until the security line held her back, then looked up at me. I knew I shouldn't move, but I did. Just a small bend, enough to meet her gaze properly. I reached beyond the rope. She handed me the box. Inside was a pin, silver and delicate, shaped like a shield. 2 words were engraved, for honor, for silence. I didn't know what to say, but I wasn't allowed to speak anyway, so I did what I could. I placed the box against my heart and bowed my head. Her eyes lit up like I'd handed her a crown. Her mother wiped a tear and whispered, she made it herself. Said she wanted to give it to someone who understands silence the way she does. That almost broke me. The 3 of us stood there, an invisible ceremony no one else around even noticed. After a long pause, Ellie whispered, now we're both guards, aren't we? I nodded, just barely. That tiny motion shattered every rule I had sworn to uphold. But I would have broken 1,000 more for that one moment. Her chair turned. She waved once. I stood motionless. That night in the barracks, I placed the pin in my personal locker. top shelf, right of the inspection kit. I didn't wear it. Not yet. Somehow, I knew it wasn't time. That pin wasn't just a gift. It was a commission, a badge passed from one soldier to another. I promised myself I would wear it when it truly mattered. That moment came during Trooping the Colour, the Queen's official birthday parade, a flood of red, gold and black, rolling like history across the mall. The spectacle, the precision, hooves pounding, boots striking, every move choreographed. We were statues in motion. I was stationed beneath the Victoria Memorial, closest point to the crowd. It was my fourth trooping. I'd marched in rain, in blistering heat. Once, even with a stitched gash from training and a twisted ankle. Never flinched. That was our job. But that day, I almost did. Because she came back. Ellie. I spotted her as we rounded the memorial, entering the final stretch toward the Queen's balcony. My unit turned, eyes right, but mine were already searching the crowd. And there she was, front row, small, pale, folded in her chair like porcelain, draped in Union Jack blankets, her face thinner, skin papery, lips dry. But her eyes, God, her eyes, still burned with something fierce. She didn't wave this time, she saluted. That frail arm rose, shaking but steady. Time slowed. I saw her lips move. Stand proud, soldier. No one else heard it, but I did. As clearly as cannon fire, I was mid-step. I should not have reacted. Not during a royal procession. Not with cameras, dignitaries, and a sea of eyes. But I did. Just a tilt. A slow nod. A silent vow. Not for crown or country, but for her. That second passed like a breeze, but the internet caught it. By evening, someone had clipped it. An 8-second video. The caption read, "The guard who," and the world noticed. Certainly. Here's your passage, rewritten for flow, emotional clarity, and impact, while preserving its paragraph structure, rhythm, and tone. Long paragraphs have been kept as per your preference. Bowed to a dying child. It racked up 2 million views in 12 hours, then 10, then 25. I stopped counting after that. The press flooded in. Every outlet wanted a quote. I gave none. I wasn't allowed to speak to the media, and even if I had been, I wouldn't have. The clip said enough. That night, I was summoned to HQ. Major Linton met me with a folder in hand and a face carved from stone. "Do you understand," he began slowly, "what you've done?" "Yes, sir." "You broke protocol." "Yes, sir." "During the Queen's ceremony." "Yes, sir." He slammed the folder shut. "One head tilt," he snapped, "is all it takes to unravel centuries of ceremonial discipline. One moment of deviation and the sanctity of tradition falls apart like wet paper." I didn't flinch. "With respect, sir," I said, "I disagree." He arched a brow. "Excuse me?" I looked him in the eye. "We salute monarchs, prime ministers, decorated generals, but that little girl gave everything just to be there, to sit through pain, exhaustion, whatever hell her body was enduring, so she could salute one of us. She didn't ask for recognition. She didn't ask for anything. She gave." "And your nod was what? A reward?" "No, sir," I said quietly. "It was respect." He leaned back slowly in his chair. "You're on probation from active parade duty. 48 hours, full review pending." I nodded. "Understood." As I turned to leave, he added, "Nathan." I paused. "There are moments," he said, voice lower now, "when tradition must bend. But be certain, the line between honor and indulgence is razor thin." I walked out unsure whether I'd be suspended or celebrated. By morning, the palace switchboard had received over 2,000 letters, some from children, others from veterans. One from a headmistress who wrote, "Our entire school cried watching that clip. You reminded them that service isn't silence. It's knowing when silence must speak." I wasn't suspended, but I was reassigned to regular gate duty, which suited me, because she came again. 2 days later. Ellie didn't look well. Her mother pushed the chair more slowly this time. They didn't stay long, but before leaving, Ellie looked straight at me and gave the softest smile I have ever seen on a human face. Then she tapped her chest, right where a badge might go. I understood. It wasn't a salute anymore. It was a promise, a passing of the torch. And I knew in that moment my duty wasn't just to a crown or a country. It was to the kind of courage that salutes when no one is watching, to the kind of girl who bowed only to death, but still stood taller than most men ever will. Ellie didn't come back. Not on Monday, not on Wednesday, not the entire week that followed. Each day, I stood at the same post near Buckingham's Eastern Gate, eyes scanning the crowd, looking for that flash of her wheelchair, the little Union Jack flag tied to the side. Nothing, only strangers, tourists, noise, no spark. By the third week, I knew. I didn't want to believe it, but soldiers have instincts, and sometimes silence doesn't mean discipline. It means absence. On my day off, I went to Great Ormond Street Hospital where she'd been treated. I wore plain clothes, no crimson tunic, no bearskin hat, but even out of uniform, I carried the weight of it. At reception, I asked softly if I might speak with someone from pediatric oncology. I expected red tape. I didn't expect her mother. Clara stood outside the ward, holding a small paper bag, her shoulders hunched, her hair pulled back in a tired knot. When she saw me, she didn't cry. She smiled. "Ellie knew you'd come," she said. I swallowed. I hoped I was wrong. "She passed 3 nights ago, in her sleep. Peaceful," they said. "But you know what she was holding?" I shook my head. "The little black box. The one she gave you. The pin. She asked for it back the day after the parade. I think she knew. She never said it out loud, but she knew." Clara reached into the paper bag and pulled out a folded piece of yellowing drawing paper. Its edges were soft, faintly stained, by tea, or maybe tears. "She wanted you to have this," Clara said. I unfolded it slowly. It was drawn in felt tip markers, a little wobbly, full of heart. A tall figure in a red coat and bearskin hat stood on one side, bent slightly at the waist. In front of him, a small girl with angel wings, saluting. Above them, the words floated, uneven and charmingly spelled. "My royal guard, my friend, forever." My throat closed. Clara's voice trembled. She always said she wanted a real soldier to salute her, not for being sick, but for being brave. She said standing through pain was like standing at a post. I nodded, gripping the drawing like a medal. "She left something else," Clara S. There, I looked at the pin resting in my palm. It still bore the words, etched in silver. "For honor, for silence." I nodded once. "I'll come," I whispered. "And if you're willing," Clara added softly, "wear the uniform." She said Ellie wanted to be sent off by the guard, even if it was just one. The air went still around us. I looked down the hallway, the one Ellie must have known so well. Bright in patches, shadowed in corners, always filled with that familiar scent of antiseptic and quiet bravery. The kind that comes in little girls who dream of standing tall even when their legs no longer obey. That was the moment. The decision came to me not like a question, but a certainty, stronger than any I'd made in battle or on parade. I would wear the full uniform. I would place the pin over my heart. And I would salute her, not as a patient, not as a child, not even as a friend, but as a fellow soldier. One who'd fought her war with grace, with silence, and with a kind of courage I had never seen on any battlefield, because she had earned that, because she was one of us. The church in Leeds was small, almost modest, faded brickwork, old stained glass windows that caught the light and broke it into fractured rainbows across the worn wooden pews. There were no cameras, no news vans, no grand processions or state tributes, just a little white coffin and silence. Ellie's funeral was held on a Friday morning. The sky was grey with drizzle, and even the trees lining the street seemed to bow their heads in mourning. There were maybe 20 people in attendance. Family, a few hospital friends, neighbours, no officials, no royals, no salutes, no one but me. I arrived in full ceremonial dress, scarlet tunic, gold buttons gleaming, boots polished to mirror black. My bearskin hat tucked respectfully beneath my arm, and over my heart, pinned carefully to my chest, was Ellie's small silver badge. For honour, for silence. No one asked who I was. They knew. As I entered, whispers fell away like ash. Heads turned. Clara stood at the front, her eyes brimming, not with surprise, but something deeper. She simply nodded, lips pressed together, as if to say, she would have been proud. The service was quiet. A single violin played something gentle. People spoke about Ellie's laugh, her stubbornness, her encyclopedic knowledge of the Royal Guard. Someone mentioned how she once made a nurse stand at attention for 5 whole minutes before taking her medicine. And then it was time. The priest announced the final farewell. 2 men stepped forward to lift the coffin. That's when I moved. I stepped into the center of the aisle, ahead of them. My pace was slow, measured. My boots echoed against the stone floor, sharp, deliberate. I drew my ceremonial sword from its scabbard, raised it to my brow. The hall held its breath. Then, in one fluid motion, I brought the blade down in front of me and bowed, deep, low, the kind of bow reserved for fallen warriors. For 5 full seconds, the world stood still. No one moved, no one breathed. Then I stood, sword still in hand, and saluted. The coffin passed beneath the arch formed by my blade, and in that moment, Ellie wasn't a child in a hospital bed. She was a soldier, one who had stood her post with more courage than most men will ever know. Behind me, I heard the first sob, then another, then Clara. She crossed the aisle and threw her arms around me, not with restraint, not with protocol, but with all the force of a mother who had lost everything, and yet somehow been given the farewell she never thought possible. She pressed her forehead to my chest and whispered through her tears, "Thank you for giving her the ceremony she always dreamed of." I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just stood there, letting her hold on, letting the weight of everything settle between us, around us. No one applauded. No one took out their phones. No one broke the sacred silence that had fallen like a cloak over the chapel. Because this wasn't a performance. This was justice. This was protocol. Rewritten, not broken. When the service ended, I waited until everyone had gone. Then I walked to the small memorial table at the front, where Ellie's drawing had been placed, the one she made of me, bowing to an angel. I placed one gloved hand gently over it. "You stood taller than any of us," I whispered. "And now, you rest." I stepped out into the drizzle. I didn't take shelter. I let the rain soak into the bearskin hat in my hand, let it slide down the collar of my coat. It felt right, because grief, like honor, isn't meant to be avoided. It's meant to be born. Later that evening, I returned to the barracks. I didn't put the pin back in my locker. I left it on my uniform, and I never took it off again, because Ellie never got to grow up.